My sister slapped me at her engagement party because I told her the man she was marrying didn't exist. Not the version of him she believed in, anyway. The sound carried across the private ballroom. A waiter stopped with a tray balanced against his shoulder. My father lowered the glass in his hand. Nearly 60 guests turned toward us, and for one strange second, nobody moved. My cheek burned. My sister Vanessa stood in front of me in a pale gold dress, breathing hard. Behind her, a wall of white roses framed a sign that read Vanessa and Adrian in glowing letters. My mother looked at Vanessa. Then she looked at me. "Why did you have to push her tonight?" she asked. That hurt more than the slap. Adrian Cole stepped between us. He was tall, calm, and perfectly dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than my first car. He didn't ask whether I was all right. He placed one hand on Vanessa's shoulder and looked at me with the patient expression people use on someone making a scene in public. "Natalie," he said, "this has gone far enough. Your future father-in-law is about to send $300,000 to a company that has no employees." I said, "So no, it hasn't." My father's face changed. Adrian's didn't. "I think security should escort her out," he said. Then a woman's voice came from behind me. "Natalie." I turned. Rebecca Lynn, the general counsel of Sterling Crest Capital, stood at the entrance to the ballroom. She had come from the company's charity dinner in the room next door. I had worked with her team twice during the previous year. Adrian smiled before I could speak. "Rebecca," he said, opening his arms as if they were old friends. "I didn't realize you were attending tonight." Rebecca didn't return the smile. "I'm sorry," she said. "What did you say your name was?" That was the first moment my family stopped looking at me as if I were jealous and started looking at Adrian as if they had never seen him before. But to understand why they still chose to believe him, you have to understand my sister. Vanessa was 3 years older than me, and in our family, 3 years might as well have been a royal title. She was the first child, the first grandchild on my mother's side, and the first person in our family to discover that crying long enough could change an answer. She was pretty in a way adults noticed. Thick brown hair, large green eyes, and a smile that made relatives forgive her before they knew what she had done. The difference was that Vanessa's needs were treated as emergencies. Mine were treated as evidence that I hadn't planned well enough. When Vanessa turned 16, my parents rented a room at a country club. There was a disc jockey, a photo booth, and a 3-tier cake with sugar flowers. When I turned 18, Dad's hours had been cut at work. Mom made dinner at home and bought a grocery store cake. I understood. At least, I told myself I did. 2 weeks later, they paid the repair bill after Vanessa backed Mom's sport utility vehicle into a concrete post. Nobody mentioned that it cost more than my birthday party would have. When Vanessa failed chemistry, Mom called the teacher and argued that the grading system had damaged her confidence. When I brought home a B in calculus, Dad asked whether I had spent too much time with friends. The explanation was always the same. "Your sister needs us more," Mom would say. "You've always been the strong one." For years, I thought being called strong was a compliment. I didn't understand that it was also an excuse. Vanessa received help because she needed it. I received responsibility because I could handle it. The difference became impossible to ignore when college decisions arrived. My parents had met at Lakeview University, a private school outside Chicago. We grew up hearing stories about it. Dad still wore his faded Lakeview sweatshirt on Saturday mornings. Vanessa and I both said we would go there one day. Vanessa was admitted, but she received no financial aid. Lakeview was expensive even then. My parents told her they couldn't pay the full tuition, so she chose Briar College, another private school where the cost was only slightly lower. They paid for everything: tuition, housing, a meal plan, books. They also bought her a used red Jeep because, according to Dad, the bus system near campus was unreliable. Vanessa changed her major 3 times and took an extra year to graduate. Whenever I asked whether I would receive the same support, my parents said we would discuss it later. My time came 2 years later. I was accepted to Lakeview with a merit scholarship that covered most of my tuition. I read the email 4 times before I believed it. Then I ran downstairs with my laptop, expecting Mom to scream and Dad to pull out his old sweatshirt. Mom hugged me. Dad said he was proud. Then Mom closed the laptop. "Let's not call Vanessa yet," she said. "Why?" "She's having a difficult semester. This could feel like you're rubbing it in." That evening, instead of celebrating, my parents showed me the cost of the remaining tuition. They suggested the state university closer to home. Dad said it would be more practical. Mom said I had always been sensible. I went to Lakeview anyway. I kept the scholarship, worked in the campus library, and took out loans for the rest. My parents said Vanessa had needed more support and I was better with pressure. I graduated in 4 years with a degree in accounting and a job at a risk consulting firm in downtown Chicago. Vanessa graduated a year before me and moved back home. She worked in event planning, then luxury apartment leasing, then social media marketing. None of the jobs lasted more than a year. She was never unemployed for long because my parents covered the space between positions. At family dinners, Vanessa talked about the people she met and the places she planned to go. I talked about audits, compliance reviews, and loan payments. Her stories sounded exciting. Mine sounded like work. That became another family rule. Vanessa had potential. I had stability. When I was 28, I was promoted to senior investigator. My team reviewed investment companies' development projects and executives whose resumes looked better than their records. I liked the work because numbers didn't become offended when you questioned them. A company either existed or it didn't. A property belonged to someone or it didn't. A date matched or it didn't. My parents congratulated me over the phone. That weekend, they held a family dinner because Vanessa had started dating a man she described as the one. His name was Adrian Cole. He arrived at my parents' house carrying a bottle of wine and flowers for my mother. He remembered everyone's name after hearing it once. He asked Dad about the Cubs, praised Mom's cooking, and listened to Vanessa as if nothing else in the room mattered. He was 36 and said he was a senior partner at Sterling Crest Capital, a real estate investment firm with offices in Chicago and New York. He claimed to manage private deals for wealthy families who didn't want their names attached to public transactions. It was a good explanation. It made the lack of public information sound like proof of importance. At dinner, he mentioned a hotel redevelopment near the river. My firm had reviewed a small part of the financing 6 months earlier. Which side of the deal were you on? I asked. Adrian's eyes moved to me for the first time that evening. Acquisition, he said. Sterling Crest wasn't the buyer, he smiled. Not directly. Through a subsidiary. A private structure. The answer was possible. It was also empty. Vanessa laughed. Natalie interviews everyone. Don't take it personally. I don't, Adrian said. Good investigators are naturally suspicious. The words sounded friendly. His eyes didn't. After dinner, Dad tried to pay for tickets Adrian had bought for a baseball game. Adrian refused. Family doesn't keep score, he said. My mother loved that line. She repeated it twice after he left. Within 3 months, Adrian had become the answer to every worry my parents had about Vanessa. He talked about buying a house in Hinsdale. He promised Mom a trip to Italy after the wedding. He told Dad that retirement wasn't an ending but a chance to invest in something meaningful. Vanessa posted photographs from restaurants, rooftop bars, and a luxury condo in the Gold Coast. In every picture, Adrian looked relaxed and successful. He never seemed to be at work, but he was always taking calls. The calls from his older brother, Michael, were especially important. Michael supposedly managed the family's private money from New York. Every time his name appeared on Adrian's screen, Adrian stepped outside. No one in my family ever spoke to Michael. Vanessa said he was private. 6 months after they met, Adrian proposed in the condo overlooking Lake Michigan. A photographer had been waiting behind a curtain. Vanessa wore a white dress she claimed not to know she would need. The photographs were perfect. The condo wasn't his. I discovered that by accident. A coworker was searching for a short-term rental for visiting executives. She sent me 3 listings. One showed the same gray couch, brass lamp, and blue painting behind Vanessa in her engagement photos. I clicked through the images. The balcony view matched. So did the marble kitchen and the narrow shelf beside the fireplace. I told myself there could be an explanation. Wealthy people rented their homes. Adrian could own the unit through a company. The listing could be old. Then I searched the county property records. The condo belonged to a short-term rental company based in Denver. That didn't prove Adrian was dangerous. It proved he had lied about owning one apartment. I should have stopped there. Instead, I searched Sterling Crest's public leadership page. Adrian Cole wasn't on it. That still didn't prove much. Consultants sometimes used titles that didn't match public records. So I did what my job had trained me to do. I wrote down what I knew, separated it from what I suspected, and asked one direct question. The next Sunday, I met Vanessa at a coffee shop near her apartment. She arrived 20 minutes late with her engagement ring turned toward the room. It was large enough that the woman at the next table glanced at it twice. Please don't tell me this is about the bridesmaid dress, she said as she sat down. The color is final. It's about Adrian. Her smile disappeared. I showed her the rental listing first. She barely looked at it. He never said he owned that condo. You told Mom and Dad he did. I assumed. He uses it whenever he wants. It rents for $1,400 a night, and he can afford that. I opened the Sterling Crest website. His name isn't listed. He works in private investments. That isn't a department that makes employees invisible. She folded her arms. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying 3 things don't match. The condo isn't his. The project he described wasn't handled by the team he named. And I can't verify his position. So you ran a background check on my fiancé? No, I checked public information after I recognized the condo. That sounds like a background check. I lowered my voice. Vanessa, I'm not saying you have to leave him. I'm asking you to verify what he told you before Mom and Dad give him money. Her expression changed at the mention of our parents. He's helping Dad invest. He's asking Dad to invest. You always do this. Do what? Make everything sound dirty because you understand paperwork. I stared at her. She leaned closer. You couldn't let me have Lakeview. You had to be the smart one. Now you can't let me have Adrian because he's the one thing in my life that's better than anything in yours. There it was. The argument we had never said out loud. Mom and Dad paid for your entire degree. I said. They bought you a car. I still have student loans. And you never let anyone forget that you got a scholarship. They asked me not to celebrate it because you enjoyed making me feel stupid. I closed my laptop. If that's what you believe, nothing I say right now will help. She stood before I did. Stay away from Adrian's business. Tell Dad not to transfer money until an independent attorney reviews it. Stay away from my relationship. She left her untouched coffee on the table. That night, Adrian called me. I had never given him my number. "You upset your sister," he said. There was no greeting. "She told you about our conversation. Vanessa and I don't keep secrets. Then show her your employment records." He laughed softly. "You know what your problem is, Natalie. I'm sure you're gonna tell me. You think facts make you important." I said nothing. His voice remained calm. "Vanessa has spent her whole life feeling judged by you. I'm not going to let you carry that into our marriage." "Is that what she told you?" "It's what everyone can see. Which entity at Sterling Crest pays you?" The line went quiet. Then he said, "Come to the engagement party. Smile for your family. Let your sister have one night that isn't about you." He ended the call. For the next 2 weeks, my mother contacted me almost every day. She never asked what I had found. She asked me to reassure Vanessa. "She thinks you hate Adrian," Mom said. "I don't know Adrian well enough to hate him." "Then tell her that." I told her not to give him money without checking his identity. "Your father knows what he's doing. How much is he investing?" Mom avoided the question. The engagement party was scheduled for the first Friday in December at the Marlowe Hotel downtown. Adrian said Sterling Crest had a relationship with the hotel and had helped him secure the ballroom. The company's annual charity dinner was being held in the larger ballroom next door. He described the timing as a happy coincidence. It also gave Adrian access to a lobby filled with Sterling Crest signs and executives, creating the impression that he belonged among them. A week before the party, Vanessa sent me a message. "Winter white theme. Please wear ivory, cream, or silver. No black. I want the family photos to look elegant." I read it twice. It felt strange, but Vanessa worked in events. She cared about coordinated photographs. I replied with a picture of a simple ivory cocktail dress I already owned. She wrote, "Perfect. Wear that." I almost didn't attend. A part of me believed that staying away would be safer. Then Dad called and asked me to come early. "Adrian is going to explain the investment to the family," he said. "I want you to hear him out with an open mind." "Are you signing anything?" "Not at the party." "Are you transferring money?" "We'll talk Friday." That answer decided it. I arrived at the Marlowe at 6:30 wearing the ivory dress. The hotel lobby was decorated with evergreen branches and gold lights. Sterling Crest charity dinner occupied the main ballroom. A row of signs displayed the company logo beside photographs of the local housing programs it supported. Vanessa and Adrian's party was in the smaller ballroom across the hall. I gave my name to the hostess and stepped inside. Every guest was wearing black dresses, black suits, black cocktail jackets. Even my mother wore a dark navy dress that looked black beneath the lights. I stopped just inside the door. Vanessa saw me from the other side of the room. She glanced at my dress, then at the photographer beside her. Her mouth curved into a small, controlled smile. I knew then. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Mom hurried toward me. "Natalie, what are you wearing?" I took out my phone. "What Vanessa told me to wear." Mom read the message. Her face tightened, but not in the way I expected. There must have been some confusion. She wrote, "No black. Keep your voice down." Vanessa reached us with Adrian at her side. "You came dressed like a bride," she said. "You told me to wear this." Several guests had turned toward us. Vanessa raised her voice just enough to carry. "I told the bridal party we might take a few winter white pictures. I didn't tell you to arrive at my engagement party dressed like this." I held up the phone. "That isn't what your message says." She looked at the screen for less than a second. "You edited it." I actually laughed, because the lie was so direct that I didn't know how else to respond. "You think I created a fake conversation so I could wear a dress you approved? I think you've been looking for a way to make tonight about you." Adrian touched her elbow. "Vanessa, don't let this ruin your evening." That was when I understood why the trap existed. It wasn't only about humiliating me. It was meant to make every warning I gave afterward look like part of the same jealous performance. Mom asked a waiter whether the hotel had a dark wrap or jacket I could borrow. "I'm not covering myself because Vanessa lied," I said. "It's one photograph," Mom whispered. "Why can't you make this easy?" "For whom?" Dad joined us before she answered. He looked uncomfortable, but he didn't ask Vanessa why she had sent the message. "Let's all calm down," he said. "Natalie, maybe put on the jacket for the family pictures. We can sort this out later." Later was where my family stored every problem that belonged to Vanessa. I should have left. If the night had only been about a dress, I would have. Then I heard Dad's brother congratulate him on the River North investment. $300,000 is a serious move, my uncle said. "Tom, I didn't know you had that kind of nerve." My father gave an embarrassed smile. I turned to him. $300,000. Dad's eyes shifted toward Adrian. "It's a short-term development note," Adrian said. "Secured by the property." "Which property?" "This isn't the time." "What's the borrowing entity?" "Natalie," Dad warned. "You said you weren't signing anything tonight." "I'm not. When are you transferring it?" No one answered. Adrian stepped closer. "Your father is an adult. He doesn't need your permission to invest. He needs the name of the company receiving his money. He has it." "Then say it." Vanessa moved between us. "Stop. Ask him for proof that he works at Sterling Crest." I said stop. "The condo where he proposed is a rental. His name isn't on Sterling Crest's employee records. The deal he told us he managed was handled by a different firm." By then, the people nearest us were no longer pretending not to listen. Adrian looked almost sad. "This is what I warned you about," he told Vanessa. She looked at me. "You have been investigating him since the day I got engaged." "I checked public records because his stories don't match. You followed us to the condo. I found the rental listing online. You called his office. I asked you to verify his office, because you can't stand that I have something you don't." The old accusation landed exactly where Adrian expected it to. "What do you think you have?" I asked. "A man whose job you can't confirm. A condo he rents by the night, an investment account that Dad is supposed to fund before anyone sees a contract." Her face changed. For 1 second, I saw fear. Then it became anger. She slapped me. The room went silent. My cheek burned. Vanessa stared at her own hand as if it had moved without her permission. Mom looked at her. Then she looked at me. "Why did you have to push her tonight?" she asked. I tasted blood where my teeth had cut the inside of my cheek. "Because Dad is about to give him your retirement money." Adrian stepped between us. "This has gone far enough." "No," I said. "It hasn't. I think security should escort her out." "Natalie?" I turned and saw Rebecca Lynn standing at the ballroom entrance. She was wearing a dark green evening suit and a Sterling Crest Donner badge. 2 people from her legal team stood behind her. She looked from my face to Vanessa's raised hand, then to Adrian. "Rebecca," Adrian said quickly. "I didn't realize you were attending tonight." Rebecca studied him. "I'm sorry. What did you say your name was?" "Adrian Cole, private real estate." "With whom?" "Sterling Crest." Rebecca's expression became still. "In what capacity?" "Senior partner, special projects." One of the lawyers behind her looked down at his phone. Rebecca didn't. "Sterling Crest doesn't have senior partners," she said. "We have managing directors. We also don't have a special projects division." Adrian gave a short laugh. "It's an internal title. I report through a private consulting entity." "Which entity?" "Harrison Cole Advisory. I approve outside consulting relationships for Sterling Crest." "Not this one." "Then it isn't a Sterling Crest relationship." My father's face had gone pale. Vanessa looked at Adrian. "Tell her who you report to." He didn't look at her. "This is a misunderstanding created by someone with a personal interest in embarrassing me," he said. "He meant me." Rebecca's eyes moved to my cheek. "I know Natalie through 2 compliance matters," she said. "She has never discussed your family with me." Adrian shook his head. "That doesn't mean she didn't arrange this." Mom seized on the explanation immediately. "Natalie, did you ask Rebecca to come in here?" I couldn't believe the question. Rebecca answered for me. "Our company dinner is 20 yards away. I came over because one of my colleagues heard shouting and recognized Natalie." Dad rubbed one hand across his mouth. "Could Adrian work with your company without you knowing?" he asked. Rebecca considered the wording. "A person can provide services to a company through several layers," she said. "But he isn't an employee officer, partner, or known consultant of Sterling Crest. If he has asked you for money using our name, don't transfer $1 until an independent attorney verifies every document." She handed Dad her card. Adrian looked at Vanessa. "We're leaving." "Adrian." "No." She followed him. She didn't look back at me. The engagement party ended less than an hour later. My parents didn't apologize for the dress. They didn't ask whether my face hurt. Dad said he needed time to think. Mom cried in the hotel hallway because Vanessa's photographs had been ruined. I went home alone, placed an ice pack against my cheek, and listened to 3 voice messages from relatives asking what had happened. Vanessa blocked my number before midnight. Adrian sent one message. "You have made a serious mistake." I took a screenshot and didn't reply. The next morning, Dad called. Adrian explained the employment issue, he said. Of course he did. His consulting company works through intermediaries. Rebecca wouldn't necessarily see the arrangement. "Did he show you a contract?" "He said the documents are confidential." "Did you call Rebecca?" "I don't want to accuse my future son-in-law of fraud because a woman at a party didn't recognize him. She's the general counsel of the company he said he works for. And she admitted there could be layers." That wasn't what Rebecca had said, but it was the part Dad needed to hear. "When are you transferring the money?" I asked. "After the rehearsal dinner." Adrian extended the deadline so I could review the papers. The wedding was 3 weeks away. "Send me the documents." "I don't want another scene." "Then send them to an attorney." Adrian's attorney prepared them. I closed my eyes. "Dad, that isn't independent review. You have made your opinion clear." "This isn't an opinion. Natalie, your mother, and I have spent our whole lives being careful. We finally have a chance to do something that could change our retirement. I'm not throwing it away because you and Vanessa can't get along." There it was again. Fraud had become a disagreement between sisters. As long as Dad framed it that way, he didn't have to admit that he might have trusted the wrong man. "I will send you whatever I find," I said. "After that, the decision is yours." "What does that mean?" "It means I won't spend the next 10 years fixing this if you choose not to look." He went quiet. My parents were used to me solving problems. They weren't used to hearing that I might let them experience one. I started with Harrison Cole Advisory. The company had been registered in Illinois 4 months earlier, 2 weeks after Adrian met Vanessa. Its business address belonged to a virtual office service. The filing listed one manager, Adrian Cole. There were no employees, no licenses, and no history of completed deals. The investment documents Dad finally forwarded to me described a short-term loan secured by a River North property. The projected return was 12% in 6 months, high enough to be exciting without immediately looking impossible. The receiving entity wasn't Harrison Cole Advisory. It was a limited liability company called North Halstead Renewal Partners. North Halstead Renewal Partners had been created 11 days earlier. Its registered agent used the same virtual office. The property listed as security existed, but the limited liability company didn't own it. A national development company did. Public records showed no pending transfer. The signature page identified Adrian as an authorized manager of North Halstead Renewal Partners. It didn't mention Sterling Crest anywhere except in his biography. I sent Dad a short email with links to each record. He replied 20 minutes later. Adrian says the ownership transfer will occur when funding closes. I wrote back, then your money isn't currently secured by the property. He didn't respond. I searched Adrian's name through the databases available to the public. I found traffic tickets, a business registration, and several social media accounts that had been created recently. Nothing went back more than 3 years. That absence bothered me more than a criminal record would have. People left traces, old addresses, school notices, and business filings. Adrian had a polished present and almost no past. I searched the phone number listed on Harrison Cole Advisory's filing. An older directory connected it to a man named Marcus Doyle. The name led to a civil case in Indiana. The scanned complaint was 47 pages long. It described an investment consultant who had persuaded a woman and her parents to invest in a renovation project. The project didn't exist as described. The money moved through 2 nearly formed companies and disappeared into personal accounts. The defendant was Marcus Doyle. An exhibit included a copy of his driver's license. The photograph was 6 years old. The hair was shorter, the face heavier, and there was no expensive suit. It was Adrian. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, staring at the screen. Finding the truth didn't feel like winning. It felt like discovering that the floor beneath my family had already cracked. The case had settled before trial. The amount and terms were confidential. One plaintiff was a woman named Erin Walsh. I found her through a professional networking site. She managed a dental office outside Indianapolis. I sent a careful message saying that a man who might be Marcus Doyle was engaged to my sister and had requested money from my parents. Erin replied the next afternoon. Can you send a current photograph? I sent the engagement announcement. Her answer came less than a minute later. That's him. We spoke by phone that evening. Erin's voice was steady, but she paused before saying his name. He called himself Matthew when I knew him, she said. Matthew Drake. Did he say he worked in real estate investment? Private equity. He said public websites didn't list people at his level. I gripped my pen. Did he have an older brother? Erin gave a short, tired laugh. Michael. Yes. Michael controlled the family trust. Michael was always traveling. Michael never used video because of security concerns. Did you ever speak to him? On the phone. I'm fairly sure Matthew used a voice-changing app, or had a friend do it. The number came from an internet service. She explained that Marcus never immediately asked his girlfriend for money. He paid for dinners, rented expensive cars, and made wealth appear normal. Then he offered her parents an opportunity. It wasn't a request, but a privilege. He studies families, Erin said. He figures out who wants to feel smart, who wants to feel rich, and who nobody listens to. I looked down at my notes. What happened when you questioned him? He told my parents I was emotionally unstable. By then, they trusted him more than they trusted me. That sentence made my skin cold. Did he ever hit you? I asked. No, he didn't need to. He made other people punish me for doubting him. After we ended the call, Erin emailed me the public documents from her case and 2 photographs. In one, Marcus stood beside a rented sports car, wearing the same watch Adrian wore in Vanessa's engagement pictures. I sent everything to my parents. Mom called first. Vanessa says the photograph could be anyone. It's him. People look alike. The phone number on his company filing belonged to Marcus Doyle. The driver's license photograph is Adrian. The scam used the same brother's name and the same investment structure. Mom began to cry. The wedding is in 2 weeks. That isn't the important deadline. You don't understand. People have booked flights. We have paid deposits. Vanessa will be destroyed. She will be worse off if she marries him. What if you're wrong? What if I'm right? Mom didn't answer. I realized then that she wasn't choosing between believing me and believing Adrian. She was choosing between 2 futures. In one, Vanessa had the perfect wedding, the successful husband, and the life my parents had always promised she deserved. In the other, the wedding was canceled, their judgment had failed, and the daughter they had dismissed was the only person who had seen the danger. The truth cost them more than the investment. It cost them the story they had told about our family. Dad called later that night. I moved the transfer to Monday after the rehearsal dinner, he said. Cancel it. I'm giving Adrian 24 hours to provide identification and proof of the property transaction. He has had months. I said I would give him the chance. Then freeze the money until an independent lawyer reviews it. I will think about it. No, you will either pause it or you won't. He sounded offended. You don't speak to me that way. You're about to send your retirement savings to a man using a false name. I'm done making that sound polite. Silence filled the line. Then I said the part that frightened me most. I will give you every document I have. But if you send the money after reading them, I won't take out a loan for you. I won't manage the court filings. I won't become your retirement plan. We would never ask you to do that. We both knew they would. The next morning, Dad forwarded a confirmation from his bank showing that the transfer had been placed on temporary hold. It wasn't canceled, but I could breathe again. Vanessa emailed me that afternoon. The subject line was, "Rehearsal dinner. Your invitation has been withdrawn. Adrian and I won't begin our marriage with someone who is committed to destroying us. Don't contact me, the venue, or our guests again." Beneath her name was a photograph of the two of them. I didn't reply. Rebecca called an hour later. After the engagement party, Sterling Crest's security team had reviewed Adrian's use of the company name. They found that Harrison Cole Advisory had copied language from Sterling Crest presentations, and that Adrian had used photographs from company events to imply a professional relationship. "Our outside counsel is sending a demand that he stop using the name," she said. "I can send a separate letter confirming he has no affiliation with us. Your father can give that to his bank or attorney." "Thank you." "There's something else," she said. "Your sister's wedding hotel contacted our events team. The groom told them Sterling Crest would guarantee the final bill." I closed my eyes. "Will you?" "No." "Does the hotel know?" "It does now." The rehearsal dinner was Friday. The hotel required the outstanding balance by the end of that night. Adrian had tied the wedding, my parents' investment, and his borrowed status to the same deadline. I had no intention of going after Vanessa told me to stay away. Then Dad called at 5:30 on Friday. "Can you come to the Marlowe?" he asked. "Why?" Adrian brought revised documents. "He says he can explain everything in front of the family." "And you believe him?" "I don't know what I believe." That was the first honest thing he had said in weeks. I put Aaron's documents, Rebecca's letter, and the public records into a folder. Then I drove downtown. The rehearsal dinner was smaller than the engagement party, but the room still held 40 people. Vanessa's bridesmaids sat near the windows. Adrian's side included several men I had never met, all introduced as business contacts. My parents were at the center table. When I entered, conversation stopped. Vanessa stood so quickly that her chair struck the wall. "I told you not to come." "I asked her," Dad said. Adrian remained seated. He wore a navy suit and the same calm expression he had worn after Vanessa slapped me. "This is exactly what she wants," he said. "An audience." "You chose the audience," I said. "You said you could explain everything in front of the family." He smiled. "I can." On the table in front of him was a leather folder. He opened it and removed several pages. "Natalie found an old civil case involving a man named Marcus Doyle," he told the room. "She decided that a bad photograph meant I was him. She then contacted a stranger and shared private details about our family." Vanessa looked around the table. "She has been doing this since we got engaged," she said. "She searched our home, Adrian's job, his car, everything." "The home is a nightly rental," I said. Adrian ignored me. "I work through Harrison Cole Advisory," he continued. "Sterling Crest can't publicly confirm confidential relationships. The woman who interrupted the party knows Natalie professionally. That should tell you how this misunderstanding happened." Dad looked at me. "Let him finish." Adrian placed a document in front of him. "This is confirmation of the property transfer to North Halstead Renewal Partners." I picked it up. The page carried a logo from a title company. It listed the property, purchase price, and closing date. At first glance, it looked official, then I saw the file number. "Did anyone call the title company?" I asked. "My attorney handled it," Adrian said. "What's your attorney's name?" "That isn't relevant. It's on a legal transaction you want my father to fund." He leaned back. "You see what she does. Every answer becomes another accusation. Because you don't answer." Vanessa stepped toward me. "You aren't turning this into another performance." I didn't send myself a fake dress code. Her face flushed. Mom whispered my name, but I kept looking at Vanessa. "Tell them," I said. "Tell them you told me to wear ivory. That has nothing to do with Adrian. It has everything to do with why no one believed me." Adrian stood. "Natalie has wanted to compete with Vanessa since they were children. She got into the school Vanessa wanted. She built a career around proving other people wrong. Now she has invented a criminal identity because she can't accept that Vanessa is happy." The speech was good because most of it contained pieces of truth. I had attended Lakeview. I did investigate people for a living. Vanessa and I had competed, though I had never understood the rules until I was already losing. I took the photograph from the Indiana case and placed it beside Adrian's hand. "What's your full legal name?" I asked. "Adrian James Cole." "Date of birth?" "You aren't a police officer." "What's your brother's full name?" "Michael Cole." "Middle name?" He looked at Vanessa. "I'm not doing this." "What city does he live in?" "New York." "We're in New York." "Manhattan." Vanessa told Mom he lives in Connecticut. "He owns more than one home." "Then call him." Adrian's expression changed for the first time. It was small, a tightening at the corners of his mouth. But Vanessa saw it. "Call Michael," she said. "This is ridiculous. You call him every day. He's traveling. Then he may not answer." "Call him anyway." Adrian took out his phone. Before he could unlock it, the hotel's event manager entered with 2 security employees. "Mr. Cole," she said, "I need to speak with you about the account." "Not now. The final payment has been declined twice. We also received notice that Sterling Crest Capital won't guarantee any part of this event." Whispers moved around the room. Adrian's face hardened. "There's a banking delay. Might need another form of payment by 8 o'clock. You will have it." She glanced at the security employees and stepped back toward the door. Vanessa looked at Adrian. "You said the wedding was paid for." Then why was the card declined?" "Because Natalie has been interfering with my accounts." I almost admired how quickly he said it. "I don't have access to your accounts," I said. "You contacted Sterling Crest. You contacted the hotel. You have been trying to destroy me. Sterling Crest contacted the hotel because you used its name as a guarantee." I handed Rebecca's letter to Dad. It stated in plain language that Adrian Cole, Harrison Cole Advisory, and North Halstead Renewal Partners had no employment, consulting, investment, or guarantee relationship with Sterling Crest. Dad read it once. Then again. I gave him the property record showing that the building was still owned by the national developer. Then I showed him the state filing for the new limited liability company and the Indiana complaint. "These records are public," I said. "You don't have to trust me. Call the title company using the number on its official website. Call the property owner. Call the Illinois Secretary of State. Call anyone except the number Adrian gives you." Dad looked at the title page. He took out his phone and searched for the title company. Adrian reached toward him. "Tom, this is insulting." Dad moved the phone away. That single movement changed the room. For the first time, someone in my family had refused to hand Adrian control of the next step. Dad called the title company's published number and read the file number from Adrian's document. The employee who answered placed him on hold. We waited in silence. When she returned, Dad put the call on speaker. "Sir," she said, "that isn't one of our file numbers. We have no transaction under North Halstead Renewal Partners." Adrian closed the leather folder. "We're leaving," he told Vanessa. She didn't move. "Call your brother," she said again. "I will explain this at home." "Which home?" His eyes narrowed. Vanessa's voice began to shake. "The condo belongs to a rental company. I checked after the party. You told me it was held in a trust." That surprised me. She had known more than she admitted. "It's complicated," he said. "So make it simple. Call Michael." Adrian put his phone on the table. He tapped a contact and turned on the speaker. The call rang 4 times. A man answered. "Hey, everything okay?" Adrian looked at me with quiet triumph. "Michael, I'm with Vanessa's family. There has been confusion about the River North project." "What confusion?" The voice sounded natural. It wasn't Adrian pretending. Then Aaron's words came back to me. The number came from an internet service. I opened the old case file on my phone. One exhibit listed the number used by Michael Drake. I dialed it. A phone began ringing inside the room. One of Adrian's business contacts reached into his jacket. Every person at the table turned toward him. The man froze with the phone in his hand. On Adrian's phone, Michael stopped speaking. The call ended. The business contact stood. "Adrian, you said this was just to reassure them. Sit down," Adrian snapped. The man moved toward the door instead. One of the hotel security employees followed him into the hallway. Vanessa stared at Adrian. "Who was that?" "A colleague helping with a private family matter." "You paid someone to pretend to be your brother." "I was protecting our privacy." "From me." "From her." He pointed at me. "Everything I did was because your sister would never stop digging." Vanessa looked down at her ring. For months, that ring had seemed like proof that she had won something. Now it looked heavy. "What's your real name?" she asked. Adrian didn't answer. "Are you Marcus Doyle?" His silence was the clearest answer he had given all night. Vanessa pulled off the ring and placed it on the table. Adrian stared at it. Then he looked at me. "You think this makes you the hero?" "No," I said. "I think it stops my father's transfer." Dad was already speaking to his bank. He canceled the wire completely and asked for the fraud department. Adrian turned to Vanessa. "Come with me. We can fix this away from them." She took one step back. "You lied about your name." "I can explain." "You lied about your job." "It was more complicated then." "You lied about your brother." "Because Natalie." Stop saying her name. It was the first time Vanessa had defended me that evening, and even then, the defense wasn't for me. It was because she could no longer bear hearing him use me as an explanation. The event manager asked Adrian to leave. He argued until the security employees stepped closer. Then he picked up the leather folder and walked out without looking at Vanessa again. No police officers rushed into the room. We had stopped a transfer and uncovered a false document. What happened next belonged to attorneys, banks, and investigators. The truth was quieter than revenge. The hotel canceled the wedding reservation the following morning. My parents lost several deposits, but not their retirement savings. Sterling Crest referred the use of its name and documents to law enforcement. Dad hired an attorney who gathered the records and contacted Aaron. Adrian, or Marcus, disappeared from the condo before the weekend ended. Vanessa moved back into my parents' house. For 3 weeks, she didn't contact me. Then she asked to meet at the same coffee shop where I had first warned her. I almost said no. I agreed because I wanted to know whether she was safe, not because I was ready to forgive her. She looked different without the ring and the carefully arranged photographs. Tired, mostly. She sat across from me and placed her phone on the table. The police asked me for every message and bank record, she said. Did you give them everything? Yes. She wrapped both hands around her coffee. You were right. I waited. I should have listened. Yes. She looked up, surprised by the answer. In our family, apologies usually arrived with an invitation for me to make the other person feel better. I was expected to say it was fine before anyone had named what happened. I didn't do that. Vanessa looked down again. I knew about the condo before the engagement party, she said. Not that it was a nightly rental, but I knew he didn't own it the way he said. I found a guest information card in a drawer. Why didn't you ask him? I did. He said the building required it for insurance. And you believed him? I wanted to. She told me there had been other moments. A business dinner canceled because Adrian said a client had become ill. A credit card that failed at a jewelry store. A call from Michael in which the same story was told with different details. Every time I questioned something, he said you had made me paranoid, she said. He said you wanted me to doubt the best thing that had ever happened to me. He used what was already there. She nodded. Then she said, the dress was my idea. I had suspected it. Hearing her admit it still hurt. Adrian said you would try to expose him at the party, she continued. He said people needed to see how jealous you were before you started, but he didn't tell me to send the message. I did that. You told everyone I edited it. I know. You hit me. Her eyes filled with tears. I know. Mom asked why I pushed you. I heard her. For once, she didn't explain. She didn't tell me she had been under pressure or that Adrian had manipulated her. Both things were true. Neither erased her choices. I lied about the dress code, she said. I let everyone call you jealous. I hid you because believing him was easier than admitting you might be right. I'm sorry. It was the first real apology she had ever given me. I believed she meant it. That didn't repair us. I'm glad you're safe, I said. I'm not ready to be your sister the way you want me to be. She wiped her face. What does that mean? It means I don't hate you. It also means we aren't going shopping next week and pretending this brought us closer. I wouldn't ask that. The old Vanessa would have. Maybe she knew it. I need space, I said. If we ever rebuild anything, it will be slowly. She nodded. We left separately. My parents apologized 2 weeks later. Dad admitted that he had ignored evidence because Adrian made him feel like a smart investor instead of a man worried about retirement. Mom admitted that she had cared more about canceling the wedding than about why I had been hit. Then they offered to pay the balance of my student loans with part of the money they had nearly invested. In the end, I accepted a portion equal to what they had paid toward Vanessa's final year of college. I made one thing clear. Money can correct part of an imbalance, I said. It can't replace an apology, and it doesn't buy access to my life. We agreed on boundaries that would once have sounded cruel to them. I wouldn't manage their finances. I wouldn't carry messages between them and Vanessa. They wouldn't ask me to surrender holidays, plans, or achievements because Vanessa was having a difficult time. If they wanted a closer relationship, it would be built through consistent choices, not one emotional dinner. They didn't like every condition. They accepted them anyway. Rebecca contacted me in January. Sterling Crest was expanding its internal investigations group. She encouraged me to apply. I want to be clear, she said. This isn't because of what happened at the hotel. I read your work before I ever saw your family. I interviewed with 4 people. I completed a case exercise. I negotiated my salary. When the offer arrived, I knew I had earned it. Vanessa began therapy and found an apartment of her own. We spoke once a month. Some calls were awkward. A few were honest. I didn't know whether we would ever become close, and I stopped treating that uncertainty like a problem I had to solve. For most of my life, being the strong daughter meant being the one nobody protected. I thought strength was staying calm, taking the smaller piece, and cleaning up whatever everyone else refused to face. I was wrong. Strength was believing what I could see, even when the people I loved told me not to. It was helping my sister without pretending she hadn't hurt me. It was giving my parents the truth and refusing to carry the consequences if they rejected it. They had spent years calling me jealous because it was easier than calling me right. By then, I no longer needed either word from them.